Alright everybody, so roughly 2.5 years ago now, maybe a little bit less, I actually don't know exactly, but I'd say 2 years ago now, around that time, I made a video saying that the bread tube era, whatever you want to call it, is dying, and the next anti-SJW right-wing wave of culture domination is rising. And, well, I got a lot of shit for that take, but I ended up being proven quite correct with the last, I'd say, year of internet culture war shit that's been going on. And I even said that I feel as though one of the biggest targets of this culture war is going to be teachers and doctors. The idea that teachers and doctors are predating on children. Because really, at the end of the day, all the right has is weaponization of people's inherent concern for children's safety. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with being concerned for the safety of children, but if you are a malicious actor, it isn't very hard to manipulate that very well-meaning concern into something that can be very harmful to innocent people. And that's what the right has been trying to do very, very hard for a while now. And it's such a perfect mirror of what happened in 2016 and to, 2014, that era, that there's even a, new Anita Sarkeesian equivalent, like a top dog boogie woman, I guess you could say, for all of the right and all of the people who are freaking out about wokeness or whatever, to consider the face of this woke anti-white, straight anti-American movement, right? And that boogie woman, I guess we would say, is Dylan Mulvaney, who is literally just a random trans woman that makes TikToks. That's literally it. And the right has been losing their shit over her as of late, due to her getting sent a single can of Bud Light with her name, not even her name, her face on it, and then drinking it in a little Instagram promotional video for Bud Light. Just the most mundane, nothing shit you could possibly imagine. She's not even a political figure outside of being, trans herself and thus generally pretty pro-trans. There's really no reason whatsoever for there to be so much hate for her other than her identity, but the right has decided to name her, the head of the groomer movement, right? Unfortunately, this has led to ridiculous amounts of harassment, insane amounts of harassment going her way. And it's unfortunate because the people who are harassing her have a much louder voice than she does. And so hearing what she has to say and what she's actually like is pretty much impossible when, it's just people calling her a groomer and, trying to justify, sending harassment her way that are overshot, louder than her, right? However, just the other day, I was scrolling through YouTube and I had a video pop up in my recommended. A video by Anthony Padilla of Smosh, who you might remember from their banger videos back when many of us were younger. Anthony Padilla now has his own YouTube channel where he does mostly interviews and stuff like that. And he did a a video about 8 months ago, has 1.6 million views. I didn't even know that this existed until just a couple days ago, called I Spent a Day with Trans Women. Controversial to be a woman, in quotes. And specifically, he ends up speaking to Dylan Mulvaney in this, and quite a few other trans women as well. Talking about, I guess, what it's like to be trans. I don't know. Probably some pretty based shit. Good to know that Anthony Padilla from Smosh is based as fuck. I love hearing that. I love seeing that. And I figured we'd go ahead and take a look at some of this video on stream and see what came out of it, particularly because Dylan Mulvaney, way before all this Bud Light shit happened and much of the right-wing hysteria about her started, actually has an opportunity to just, talk about herself here, I guess. And, I feel like it might be a good idea to, platform that. Of course, we won't be watching the whole video, and I'll be pinning the video down in the pinned comment down below, so you guys can go watch the whole thing yourselves. But let's take a look at this little bit of it and see if there is anything of note to talk about, because I think this is going to be interesting. His last name is Spanish, or it's pronounced Padilla. No, it's pronounced Padilla.
I'm Anthony Padilla, and I'm curious.
Oh, for those of you guys that don't know, Dylan Mulvaney's a Christian. You guys know that, right? Dylan Mulvaney, the person who, like, the right has been losing their fucking shit over, is literally a Christian, was raised a Christian, and is still a Christian. She literally said in her recent response to all the harassment she's getting that she still has a strong relationship with God even through all of the harassment she's getting from fellow Christians. Guys, you literally can't be a perfect trans for the right to, like, be okay with your existence, right? No matter how much you play into their agenda or how much you fit the standards that you assume you should be able to fit as a trans person for them to accept you, the fact that you are trans is enough for them to hate you. They don't have any other reason for hating you other than your identity. Every excuse they bring up is nothing other than that, an excuse. You can be the most perfect trans person in the universe, and they will find a reason to hate you and justify your death. They will find a reason. They will fabricate a reason if they must. That's usually what they do. What's so frustrating about dealing with these transphobe rhetoricians and demagogues is that they claim that this is some, like, black hole of ideology that's sucking people in, but in reality, from my understanding, a lot of trans people want to deny to themselves that they're trans for a pretty long time because, contrary to what conservatives will tell you, being trans kind of, it's a bit difficult. It's a little hard. You know, there's definitely some hardships that trans people have to go through. And because of that, I don't really agree with the conservative argument that people, like, particularly Zoomers, are just identifying as different genders for woke points or whatever. I don't even know what the claim is. What type of attention or clout do teenagers get from identifying as trans? It really makes no sense. It's just sort of relying on people's inherent assumption that, like, kids these days must be doing some crazy, stupid shit, I guess. That makes sense. That's literally it. That's literally what that's all based on. It's just people who kind of assume kids are always doing crazy, stupid shit. Like, convincing them, yeah, this trans thing, this is just kids doing crazy, stupid shit.
Those kind of conversations hurt society.
Remember, by the way, in many cases throughout history, when there is, like, an extremely hyper, like, repressive or transphobic culture, society, the one group where trans people are still, like, allowed to be trans and there's still, like, a quiet acceptance is when it comes to sexualization and sex work. Because a lot of these crazy fucking transphobes are chasers. Especially the politicians. A lot of them are chasers, and they want to be able to have sex with trans people and jack off to trans porn and be able to fetishize trans people, but they don't see trans people as people. They see trans people as, like, sort of a shameful for them sort of sexual deviance fetish type thing. But they're into it, and they hate themselves for it, so they're diverting their self-hatred outward. Yeah, looking at you, Alabama. Yeah, literally, look at the porn website search stats and see what states have the highest rates for searching like trans and femboy porn. It's the red states, far more than the blue states. Conservative parents are getting lonelier. Just know, like, if you're trans and you had to disown your parents because of that, just know they're going to die lonely and miserable. And they're going to be laying in their deathbed as they wither away, regretting that they pushed you away and want to feel morally superior by not being accepting of you. Like, if you've got like a transphobic parent you've had to, like, completely get out of your life, I genuinely want you to know they're going to die regretting pushing you away. Or probably way before that, but certainly by the time they're on their deathbed, they're going to regret it. Pogface, yes. Absolutely. It is an overwhelmingly common trend, and it's been happening for a very long time for homophobic, transphobic, or just generally really bigoted, really right-wing, like religious fanatic, evangelical type parents to get completely disowned by their more progressive, gay, trans, whatever it may be, kids. And then they end up like posting online on Facebook like every Christmas and every family holiday, like, oh, my kids don't talk to me anymore because I'm racist, or my kids don't talk to me anymore because I scream at them about how they need to accept Jesus into their life. Like, this has been going on for a very long time, and it's only going to get worse. They're like, when parents do this kind of shit to their LGBT kids, they're only, in the end, subjecting themselves to like a lifetime of misery and guilt. Because in a lot of cases, they probably do love their kids and think they're doing some sort of disciplinary power play on their kids that'll make them realize, oh, it was just a trend. Oh, I'm going to go back to being cis or whatever. But that's not what it is.
I thought I was like joking or something. Like, but I do realize now
that she has no idea what's coming. She has no idea what's coming in 8 months. Or 7 months. Like, literally, when it comes to the internet, and you'll realize this very quickly, even outside of political spaces, being LGBT on its own, like, inherently puts you on a lower, like, standing, or like, it gives a lower barrier requirement for you to reach for an action that you take to be considered irredeemably cringe. Does that make sense? Like, let me give an example, or I guess a broad example, an unspecific example. How many trans public figures have you seen get a ton of shit, not from like any particular like political group or anything, but they get a ton of shit because they did something cringy or weird, or maybe a little bit bad, but not really that bad. But, like, they get it way worse than a cis or a straight person in their same position who did the exact same thing or worse. How many times can you, examples in your own experience can you remember this happening? Because I can think of quite a few content creators who I know get a lot of shit even from communities that aren't, like, conservative, because their being LGBT set them at a lower, level than everybody else, and they had to essentially do less to be considered irredeemably cringe or worth making fun of or worth disregarding the feelings of. I see it very often, right? Yeah, like Keffals, like a lot of the hate for Keffals initially started because she's trans, and then she responds to those people, and if her response to them is considered cringe, well, now she's cringe. And then if she responds to the accusations that she's cringe in a way that people don't like or can twist into a way people don't like, then now you're bad, right? And so people will basically justify any level of like hatred towards somebody online who's LGBT. When I feel like generally if you're cis and straight, you're allowed to get away with a lot more being cringe than if you're trans or just LGBT of any kind. I've noticed that quite a bit, because I do some pretty cringy shit, but I don't get anywhere near as much shit as if I was trans or gay or bi or pan or something, and I did the same amount of cringy shit. I would get so much more shit than I do now if I was trans or LGBT of any kind. I would be getting like fucking airdropped with hate constantly. I would literally be getting swatted as we speak if I was LGBT. It would be so much worse. I have a question. Okay, is this true? Do trans women taking estrogen sometimes get shorter? This feels like it shouldn't be possible. It's true? I'm getting very mixed answers. How is that possible? Because I've seen HRT like update posts where people are saying that they're on estrogen and they are getting shorter and they're marking off their height getting shorter. Not by a lot, but like a bit. It's actually a lot more common than you think. Spine changes, bone density changes. Okay. Makes sense, I guess. Yeah. Well, apparently that's a thing. Apparently even your height can change on hormones. That is fucking wild. Like, obviously it would make sense if your height would change and you could get taller on hormones, but to think that you can actually get shorter and get smaller because of hormones after you've fully grown up for the most part, that's wild. That's fucking wild. Working out, having your muscle mass makes you taller. Working out and having more muscle mass makes you taller. Does it really? Huh. Interesting. I wonder how tall I'd be if I was jacked.
I'd actually started hormone.
Yeah, to be fair, when it comes to hormone blockers, a lot of, like, the hysteria is completely bullshit because hormone blockers are used already and have been for a long time for youth in situations where they're not trans. We've been using hormone blockers on kids who aren't trans for a very long time because it's a medicine used, or it's a treatment used for a bunch of, like, hormone disorders. I know that there was a girl on my swim team who took hormone blockers, and she was cis. It was literally just because she had, I forget what, a pituitary gland disorder, I think is what it was called. But yeah, like there have been cis kids taking hormone blockers for a very long time that are not trans. For nothing to do with being, like, with gender or anything like that. It's just because they, like, need to take it medically.
Hormones as a non-binary person before I had even
Exactly. In no scenario would you ever find it to be socially acceptable to talk about someone's private parts as a public figure, but when it's a trans person or trans people as a whole, all of a sudden it's acceptable to start an entire discourse about that topic, which is what the right has done. Hi, Xander Hall. I'm a closeted trans woman from Missouri, and I'm a big fan of your content. Thank you for introducing me to the Mango Pack. Oh yeah, the mod pack that I play. Well, I'm glad you enjoy my content, and I'm glad you like the Mango Pack mod pack. It's a lot of fun to play. And I hope you're able to not be in Missouri soon. Thing is, that's how things were until conservatives started losing their fucking shit. There wasn't this culture of, is this person a man, is this person a woman, until the right started losing their shit. The idea that, like, anybody is gender confused is a completely made-up concept by the right. There's never been this, like, gender confusion concept that the right pushes among the left. It's always been a straw man of the left that the right has created. So it's so sad that, like, in this respect, society has kind of regressed in a way. There are instances from, like, back in the 1940s and 1930s where trans women are being referred to fairly flatteringly by mainstream media outlets in, like, the newspaper and whatnot. And it's not in a negative way, not to make fun of them, not to, like, degrade them or make them into a spectacle, just like a positive, like, completely non-politically charged article. You know, like, these kind of things were pretty normal even 100 years ago. But now, with modern-day right-wing hysteria basically driving the culture war, now there's this fear that, oh my god, what if I pick up a girl at the bar and she ends up having a penis? I literally have to die. Yeah, like, okay, if it would really, like, if that made-up scenario would really be that upsetting for you, I guess you would have to die. Listen, I feel like the trans community needs to embrace the word gawk, not just because it's funny, but because I feel like calling chasers gawk goblins is more woke and less problematic than calling them chasers. Because calling them chasers implies you're just dropping the T-slur off the beginning. Like, the origin of that term is T-slur chaser, is where that comes from. So you're literally just implying the T-slur there. But if you call them gawk goblins, we're talking a completely new etymologically made-up word here, okay? And it's funnier, too. And it's honestly a little bit more insulting towards the way... It's more insulting to the fact that they are fetishizing trans people in the word than that they are interested in trans people, right? Like, the fact that they're into trans people isn't the bad thing. It's that they're goblins. It's that they're literally like they're fetishizing trans people to a goblin-like degree. I like this one a lot. I think Gawk Goblin is a very good replacement for Chaser, and I'll die on this hill. And I don't care how many big trans accounts on Twitter want to clip me saying this and say, cis streamer Xanderhall does this, and I don't know what they would argue, but they'd find some way to wokely argue that this is some bigoted shit that I'm saying, because they always find a way. Woke scolds find a way.
Women.
She literally won't even let the women's secrets leak. I'll let you guys in on what the women's secrets are, okay? Because I've had insider knowledge, okay, from several spies behind the femoid ranks, okay? And Zan, don't tell. No, I'm telling, okay? Women, when us men aren't looking, okay, they're always just like sending each other nudes, like planning world domination, building weapons of mass destruction, using robotics, and synthesizing all sorts of different poisons. They literally, that's what they do all day when we're not looking. They synthesize all sorts of different poisons. They ponder their orb and they brew. To be fair, the name Dylan is really, like, I've met a lot of cis women named Dylan before. So, I actually didn't know that Dylan was her original name. I actually thought that she changed her name to Dylan because it is a, like, it is a, like, an androgynous name in and of itself. So yeah, I mean, that really works out. If you're trans and you have a name like that you don't even have to change. Yeah, I guess that works, right? I guess my name actually works like that too, because my name is Alex. So I could be Alex Guy or Alex Girl, right? Like, I wouldn't have to change my name if I was trans. Look at that.
Okay, but, like, what would your girl name be? Like...
Oh my god, you guys have no idea how upset I was when I found out. I was so happy when I found out they were adding a new basic default skin to Minecraft named Alex. I lost my fucking mind. You guys have no idea how excited I was. And then I found out the name, like the Alex skin was a girl, and I was like, I mean, I guess it's still kind of a dub that my name is canon in Minecraft now, but like, fuck, I was hoping it was going to be like a new like a new overhauled default skin that was gonna like kind of overshadow Steve now, but it ended up being just a you know, female counterpart to Steve. Alex is giving she they. I forgot my trans friend even had a dead name, lol. I mean, to be fair, like when you know a trans person for like any decent length of time, it really isn't like if you knew like somebody for a long time and then they come out as trans, change their name, change their pronouns and stuff, at least in my experience, it is not hard to get used to that. I've had quite a few friends at this point realize they're trans after like years of being friends with them, and it's like not that hard to like adjust to that. You know, it really isn't that hard. Conservatives talk it up like it is, but it's not difficult.
Just any...
Like, you don't even need to, though, to be completely honest. Like, in my experience, if you just default to they, them, when you really don't know, or just use their name, usually the pronouns will be brought up fairly quickly, at least in lefty spaces. I just default to, like, they, them, or just use the person's name until pronouns are brought up. Because sometimes it can feel... All right, I'm not saying it should be taken this way, but I can imagine that for some people... asking their pronouns can kind of feel a little bit insulting, particularly if they put, like, effort into trying to present a certain way so that people will assume they're like, pronouns, right? And so I feel like that, like, asking even can be a little bit So, like, hearing it after a little bit of conversation might be better, because, you know, just asking can, you know, be an like, it could have some implications. Asking pronouns can be seen as clocking, TBH. Exactly, Fawn. Thank you. That's basically what I meant to say. Like, if you ask a trans person their pronouns and they, like, you don't even know they're trans, like, they look real, they pass really well and whatnot, and you ask them their pronouns, then that might kind of make them feel like they got clocked. I believe that was literally what ContraPoints got into that, like, original big cancellation drama over, is she said that, like, when she goes to, like, super inclusive lefty spaces where she has to, like, give her pronouns and stuff, she kind of feels a little bit less valid than when she goes to a bar in South Carolina and some redneck says, "Sorry, ma'am, can you get out the way so I can get to the shitter?" You know, like, I kind of get that. I think I understand where that's coming from.
Anyone who someone
Dylan Mulvaney is more of a Christian, like an actual legit Christian by, like, the spirit of Christianity and Jesus's will, than the vast majority of the conservative Christian evangelical pundits attacking her. Pretty much all of them. Like, I've literally heard Dylan Mulvaney speak, like, about herself maybe 4 times. And 2 of those 4 times she's brought up, like, God, the soul, and her Christian, like faith. I'm pretty sure she's a Christian. It must be so crazy for her to, like, watch as these people claiming to, like, love Jesus or whatever attack her, literally disregarding the teachings of Jesus Christ. As a matter of fact, a good example of this was, I think this is a good place to actually end things off. There will, of course, be a link pinned down below for you to see the rest of that interview, which I highly recommend you guys go and watch, from Anthony Padilla. But I wanted to show you this absolutely demonic fucking tweet from Matt Walsh that I think really just encapsulates what I mean when I say these people they're just filled with hate. It's literally nothing but pure burning hatred. Found it. So Matt Walsh tweeted this out. The answer to his question is yes, and this is the question. Do you think Jesus would treat the trans movement with the same amount of hate that you do? And he says yes. To be clear, these people, they hate trans people, and they will absolutely weaponize their claims that they're, like, they love Jesus and, you know, they care about Jesus's words and all that in order to justify their hatred. Also, my favorite thing is, like, Matt Walsh's whole thing is calling trans people, like, weird pedophile groomers or whatever, but is, like, his like brand is the Sweet Baby Gang. It's super weird. I every time I have to talk about it, I cringe to my core. But he calls his fans the Sweet Baby Gang, and his logo for the Sweet Baby Gang is a picture of, like, his face, like, photoshopped on a baby, and you can see he's got some fan art of the Sweet Baby Gang logo there, where it's his head on, like, the Nirvana album Baby. I think it's Nirvana. I'm sorry, I'm high. Like, like, it's so fucking weird. It always makes me cringe every time I see it. He sells mugs. He sells mugs with, like, the picture of him as I guess, like, a bearded baby, like, in a diaper. And he calls his fans the Sweet Baby Gang. And this guy's calling trans people groomers.